how I made the next color is I actually used a combination of all three paints. I started off with about almost about 2/3 of whatever I'm mixing. I'm just using like a little plastic, rivet container. Use a little Rubbermaid or whatever just to keep your weathered paint in. The reason why I make so much is so that I can use this same oily mixture over the whole armor. Everything's consistent, right? So I used about maybe, yeah, about 2/3 of whatever I'm making is about brown. The next kind of, I guess, kind of less than 1/3 would be the black, and then you want to add a little bit of the gray, this warm gray, to the black. And the reason is, if you mix the black with the brown, you're just going to end up with really, really dark brown, and it doesn't really have that kind of desert oily color to it. So adding a little bit of that gray to the black first will just kind of tone it down a bit. And then that way it doesn't look like, someone used a Sharpie or something on your armor. You kind of want it to blend in and look layered, right? So again, about 2/3, maybe like, say, I don't know, 65 or 70% of the burnt umber, maybe about 20% of the black, and then like 10% of the warm gray. So you mix that all up and you basically get this. And now this looks really, really dark. It looks almost black. But again, I'm just going to kind of show you real quick in terms of what it looks like. It's, looks can be deceiving. It looks really, really dark there. Again, I take my scrap piece of plastic. If I dab that on, that's pretty dark. But again, if I thin it out like this, it's actually turning out to be quite a bit lighter, and you can kind of see the contrast between the two. They work really well. They're both what we call kind of, in the art world, sort of warm tones, and that's perfect for this kind of deserty environment. Again, if I take a look at my reference of the oily sample, that's both colors right there. You got the warm kind of on this side, and this sort of simulates kind of the dirt stuff. So that being said, we're going to start moving on. Again, I'm just going to demonstrate one side for you. I'll maybe do the inside of the armor. You're going to take your weathering sponge in this, what I'm going to call the oil mixture. Just going to get it started here, spreading it out, and then I'm going to start dabbing just like before. Now, because, again, the brown was already dry the first, overnight, it's going to sort of stay there, and when I rub off the this oil mixture, this oil color, it's going to just have like a really, really cool multi-layered look to it. Again, as I'm dabbing stuff on, you don't want to stroke or rub against stuff unless you're just trying to get in the nook and crannies. If you do need to do that, that's okay to get it right in there, but then just make sure you're dabbing on top again. You can do a little bit less in the high spots if you want. I kind of tend to just do it all over. That way it's kind of got a little bit more of an even look to it. Just going to do half. In terms of quantity, what you want to mix up for your whole armor, I mean, you're probably going to need, I'm just kind of eyeballing stuff here, but you're probably going to need about, say 4 to 6 tablespoons of paint. It tends to actually go pretty far. You don't need tons and tons and tons of it. So if you're going to buy, tubes this size, you can probably, chip in with a few buddies and share the paint, because it's going to go a long way. So again, we're just going to work the oil kind of color mixture. We're just going to dab it all over. It's already looking pretty cool. If you were doing a cologne or something like that, and you wanted kind of that more smoky, burnt sort of look, I guess, you could use this color and not necessarily use the brown, and it would probably turn out really good. Again, watching out for areas like this. You want to make sure that you get paint into the nooks and crannies so that it looks like it's actually dirt that's settled in. I find a lot of times, trippers aren't really, forcing all the way in there, and then you get this kind of like sharp white line inside, and it doesn't really look weathered. So I'm just going to pretend that that's done. Again, by the time you move across to the other side of the armor, this first side is already going to be, fairly dry. I'm just going to zap it really quick with a hairdryer, literally like 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Again, I used a hairdryer to kind of zap this really quick just for demonstration purposes. I'd actually suggest just leaving it for like 5 minutes And again, you know, the longer you leave it is, it's going to be to take the paint off. So you kind of have to start to learn to gauge, you know, how long you're going to leave the paint on for. Again, I got my damp cloth. I tried to clean it off a little bit. Again, wring all the water out so it's you know, fairly dry. Put it on there, and I'm just kind of rubbing like 10%. Almost nothing comes off. But again, if I start doing this circular motion, it's going to start taking the paint off. And again, it's going to remove a lot of the paint in the high spots and leave it in the low spots, right? And you know, you can work this pretty quick. Again, I'm not trying to make the armor look, you know, super burnt, but I am trying to make it look oily. Again, like that kind of reference piece of plastic that I put the oil on. So just working in a circle. Again, you know, if you see straight lines like that, try to break up the straight line just by twisting some of the paint off. And it actually looks a lot more organic that way, you know. So you, again, don't rub it like that. The paint's coming off pretty easily. It's a pretty fresh coat. Again, thinking about where the armor's going to be dirty, you might want it a little bit dirtier on the lower half as opposed to the top half. Cover strips, you know, I kind of tend to take a little bit more off and just leave some of the details kind of nestled in there. Just going to work my way around. You'll notice that as you're doing this, you might be leaving these kind of streaks behind. Don't worry, you'll do a pass afterwards to kind of clean that up. So don't try and rush the process too much. I might be running out of videotape here, so I'm just going to try and hustle this along and kind of finish this one part. But if you're looking at it from the front, it's not looking not too bad. Again, if you wanted it really dirty, you know, you could probably leave it like this. If you wanted a little bit more clean, you can kind of take a little bit more off. And again, if you want to even it out, get a clean side of the cloth and kind of just do, you know, a cleaning pass on it. But you know, that's basically it. That's what it could look like right there. And again, here's kind of a finished thigh piece to give you a comparison. So I hope that's helpful for all the troopers out there trying to weather their armor. Again, this is just one approach for the kind of oily look. You know, modify the process or modify the paints as you go. And there you go. Good luck.